What is Quasi experimental design? In order to understand this, let us first of all understand what is non-experimental design. Non-experimental design is that experimental design in which the researcher makes little or no attempt to minimize threat to internal validity. So the threats to internal validity is there, and therefore we cannot establish the causality of the experiment, or it's difficult for us to establish cause and effect relationship in a non-experimental design. Then we have true experimental design or strong experimental design. And these designs are strong or true because they make every effort to minimize threats to internal validity. So all the threats to internal validity are controlled in a true experimental design. And the method by which we control these threats to internal validity is through randomization. The third is called Quasi experimental design. Quasi is in between the non experimental and the true experimental design. It makes some attempts to minimize threats to internal validity. And because it's an experimental design, therefore it follows the procedure of a true experiment. So all the procedures by which we conduct a true experiment, all these procedures are still followed in quasi experimental design, but only one thing is missing, and that one thing is the lack of random assignment. So because there is no random assignment in quasi experimental design, therefore we have less control over the different variables which are involved in the experiment. And because of the lack of random assignment, I will repeat this again, that because of the lack of random assignment, the design that we have is then called quasi experimental design. Usually, quasi experimental designs are performed for groups which are already pre existing. The groups which are naturally occurring or which are already formed before our experiment, and therefore it is difficult for the researcher to make any further adjustment in the groups or go for random assignment. For example, if we are doing some experiments in classrooms, so the classrooms are already pre-existing. They are pre-existing before the research, before the experiments, and it's difficult for the researcher to again take different classes, combine all the students, and then form different groups through random assignment. Similarly, if the research is about different schools, so we cannot make all the participants of different schools combine together and go for random assignments. Similarly, in experiments performed in different organizations or different centers, again these groups or these particular sections are already existing or pre-existing before the research, and therefore experiments in such a particular setting, so this will be coming under quasi experimental design.